And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to the recording session for the Polite Society podcast. This is going to be episode 267. We're going to be doing a little bit of an out-of-an-order recording tonight. We've got 3 interviews. We're going to crank off first, and then we'll get into our regular show. I want to thank everybody that joins us live on politicsandguns.com/live. And, of course, I want to go ahead and I want to thank our sponsors as well. We've got ABN Army Surplus. As soon as I scroll back up, because I'm going to forget somebody if I don't do this. Of course, we've got, I can't get to the right part, but I can remember off the top of my head, NJ2AS, Concealment Solutions, Firearms Safety Institute, and let's see here, where am I at? Crusader Weaponry. I'm still forgetting somebody, aren't I? ABN, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and Firearms Safety Institute. Without our sponsors, folks, we wouldn't be able to bring you the show. The show pays for itself, but barely. And we're glad for each and every one of our sponsors to allow us to bring this to you without it coming out of my pocket anymore. So let's go ahead and we'll get going on the interviews here. Close that and make sure, yeah, I'm going to close Facebook so it doesn't distract me. And Susan, do you see the remotes for that television back there? All right. I'll be right back, guys. I got to kill that television behind me.
You're on Ben White Avenue, or I'm sorry, Ben White Boulevard?
Who, me?
Yes, sir.
The store is on Ben White, yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to toss a link into the show notes. It would be nice if I got the right place.
Oh, yes, awesome. Yeah, Ben White Boulevard between South First and Congress.
Okay.
Central Texas Gunworks. Awesome. Come and Talk It. Is that terrestrial? Is that on a
no,
regular?
1370.
Yeah, terrestrial. Meaning.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Meaning not podcast, not satellite.
That is correct, yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, Rachel, this is kind of your thing here. You want to give us a 5-second lead-in and then take it?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, coming back in 5. I'm hearing some noise. Is somebody talking? Y'all catching that too?
I'm not hearing
No, we
anything.
good. Okay.
Just a little bit.
Sorry, okay, I guess we're good. All right. Welcome back to the Polite Society podcast. We have Michael Cargill with us. Michael owns Central Texas Gunworks. He's a host of the Come and Talk It radio show, and he's also running for Austin City Council. I met Michael last year when we were both testifying on gun bills in the Capitol, and I can definitely vouch for his energy, enthusiasm, and dedication to the cause of liberty. He's a great guy to work with. I'm so glad we have him here in Austin. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this race. You're running for Austin City Council. What motivated you to become a candidate?
Well, you know, I live in North Austin, and I travel to South Austin to the gun store on Ben White Boulevard, and you go straight through downtown, and I'm worried about all this traffic. And I started talking to some of my neighbors, and their concerns were, you know, that we're not doing anything about traffic here in Austin at all, for one, and that the city council has actually been talking about traffic all the way back to 1969. They've yet to do anything about it. So I'm more of a doer, not just a talker. You know, because I've been featured on Forbes Magazine, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CNN, and Fox Business News. And I'm more of a doer than just a talk. I don't want to just talk about it. We need to do something about it. And so I decided to run for city council to do something about this traffic. What I would like to do is actually route some of that traffic to Highway 183 and make Highway 183 a actual highway, and actually widen that median and run it all the way down south until you get to the toll road. And then also put some of the 18-wheelers, put those big trucks on 183. Because Austin is one of the few major cities in this country where your hazardous material trucks actually run through downtown. And we shouldn't have hazmat trucks going through downtown, the capital, of Texas, in Austin, right next to the police department, just a stone throw away from the Capitol, where someone sets something off, then we're done. Or if there's a hazmat spill in downtown, then there goes our water supply, and we're done there as well. So we need to route those trucks around the city, and that will free up a little traffic as well. And I don't know if you notice this or not, when you're on the weekends, when we have the F1 race, we also have the UT football game and some other events. You notice how they've been able to do something about traffic on those weekends. Well, because we have police officers stationed at different intersections around, the major intersections around the city, making traffic flow actually pretty nice. Well, you know what? We can do that every other day. We can actually control our lights and make the flow of traffic go by a little smoother. So those are just some of the few things that I would like to do here in City Hall.
Wonderful. Our show is the Polite Society podcast, and as you know, an armed society is a polite society, and I love how you're demonstrating that through concern for the community you're in, concern for Austin, more than just your own particular niche, which is gun rights. You realize there's a broader need for liberty and need for help in the community. So I really appreciate your vision for that. I know you've definitely had an impact in Austin just with your energy and passion in various issues. I see that you've had a great impact on the Austin gun culture, and I'd be interested to know, how do you feel you've already impacted the Austin gun culture, and how could you continue to do so as an Austin City Council member?
Well, what I'd like to try to do is motivate people to get to the polls and go vote. I want them to take part in our political process. Go to the Capitol. Let your state legislator, your state senator know some of the things that you're interested in, and make them listen to you. Because if they don't listen, if they don't hear from you, then they're not going to do anything about it. So we got to contact our state rep, our state senators. I always like to remind people, I actually teach concealed handgun license courses every single Saturday. This morning, I started my morning off by talking to my CHO class of 35 people. And I wanted them to understand, you got to get out and go vote. Talk to your state rep, talk to your state senator. I reminded them that we have about 1 million people here in Travis County. Out of the 1 million people that we have here in Travis County, we have a little over 700,000 registered voters. Out of the 700,000 registered voters that we have here in Travis County, in our last election, only 22,000 came out to vote. 22,000 out of 1 million residents that we have here in this county. And there was a state representative that was elected into office in Travis County by a difference of 4 votes. 4 votes. That is, one household could have made a difference in that election. So I try to remind people, get out and vote. Let your voice be heard. Take part in the political process and get to the Capitol, because it's not going to happen on Facebook. It's not going to happen on Twitter. It's going to happen in the Texas State Capitol or at City Hall.
Wow, that's a startling statistic there. And so what I'm hearing from you is you don't want to be the one to go and make everybody's decisions for them and run things as an Austin City Council member. You really want the people of Austin coming out and running things for themselves and taking responsibility and taking control through voting, through standing up and having a voice.
Absolutely. I will be there at City Council sitting on that dais, listening to the people and responding to what the people are requesting. I need them. I want their back. I need them to have my back. You got to get down to City Council and say, hey, we don't want this, or we would rather have this, and then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen to the people. That's why I love 10-1, because I live in the district, and the people that are going to vote me into office are going to live in my district and live in my neighborhood, and I'm going to fight for them.
Very good. So we have a national audience. So can you just give a little general help for listeners who might be saying, I want to go talk to my city council or whatever they might have in their area. How would they even start figuring out how to do that? How would they understand what's going on and how to participate in the process?
Right. Whatever your issues are and wherever you live, whether it's open carry, whether it's concealed carry, whatever the issue is, find out what it is. Get online and research it, and then get the information. Talk to your, go down to the Libertarian Party, go down to the state party, still online, go down to the state party, and your Republican Party, and find out what's going on, what are the issues, and get involved. Participate. There are people that are trying to get elected, trying to get rid of some of the same people that we're continuing to put into office.
And hello.
And we just lost him.
Damn, he was doing good too.
I know.
I was gonna jump in, but all right, let me.
He'll probably be back in a minute. Well, whatever you want to do is cool.
We'll give him just a few seconds and see if he jumps back in here. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.
Do we want to tee up the next contestant?
Yeah, why don't we go to
ping back and forth?
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and do that? Oh, wait, here we go.
About that?
Yeah.
That's what happens. You have to forgive me, we're in the mobile office. We're out on the road talking to the voters right now, so we're actually in my vehicle.
Well, I think that's making great use of time.
Well, let's, Rachel, I'm going to have you re-ask that question. I'll marry the two together, and then I'm going to jump in with at least one or two before we cut him loose.
All right.
So,
I think I remember what question I was on. Okay.
All right.
So we'll just pick up.
Yep. Just give me a cue. Give me a cue when you're coming in.
All right. Coming back in 5. Michael, we have a national audience with this podcast. Can you help our listeners understand how they can make a difference in local government in their areas? We might have listeners hearing what you're saying and wondering, hey, how can I find out what's going on in my city council or equivalent? How can I be involved? So what tips do you have for them?
Well, in a situation like that, that's when the internet's going to come into play. Then you can go out and do your research and find out what are some of your, figure out what your concerns are, whether it's going to be open carry, concealed carry, concealed carry on campus, whatever you're interested in. You want to make it happen, then you got to talk to your state rep, talk to your state senator, find out by your Libertarian Party or the Republican Party or whatever party you're part of, find out what are some of the good candidates out there. Use your own best judgment. Don't let someone else tell you what to think. Do the research on the candidates, figure out which ones are the best ones, and go out and support them, help them. Because what we're doing here, we're doing a grassroots effort. We're not part of some big, corporation or some big group pushing us. This is a grassroots effort to try to do something and make changes in our city. And I encourage you to do the same.
If you don't mind, I'd like to jump in myself and ask a question quick. You own Central Texas Gunworks, and now you're a radio host, right?
Yes, I own Central Texas Gunworks, which is a gun store. We do beginning handgun classes, concealed handgun classes, level 3, level 4 private security courses for our security guards here in the state of Texas. Talk 1370, I have a radio show on that station. It's called Come and Talk It, where we talk all things firearms. We're looking at right now branching out to XM radio, to bring talk radio, to people around the world, and to talk all things firearms. So definitely listen to us on Sundays at 4 p.m. on Talk 1370. You can go to comeandtalkit.com and you can listen to it online. We talk about everything guns. I have an attorney that's on the radio show, and he will give us the legal perspective there. We're going to talk about some court cases coming up. On Sunday, we're actually going to talk about gays and guns and discuss that issue and break it down. So we talk about everything on Come and Talk It. So listen on Sundays to Come and Talk It.
Very cool. Yeah, I I have often said that there is no one segment of the population that has more rights than another, but I believe, honestly, in today's society, if you're gay and you're openly gay, you really should be armed, because there are some people that don't like gays and don't mind breaking the law to show it. I believe, honestly, that if you are openly gay, you should be armed.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Oh, I'm glad to see you've got the podcast archive of your show. I'll get to find out all about you.
Yes, absolutely. You hear some of the things I've talked about with Ferguson, Missouri. We've had the Austin Police Chief. We've had Senator John Cornyn, our U.S. Senator, our senior U.S. Senator here in the state of Texas, on the show. So definitely, take a look at our podcast. It's on www.comeandtalkit.com.
You definitely have quite a varied background, many accomplishments, and I've only listed a few. I think our listeners will have to Google you and find out quite a bit more great things about you that you've accomplished. So how do you feel that's helped you, or what in particular has helped to prepare you for this election and for being an Austin City Council member?
Well, Austin is it's a liberal town, and so my last race, I ran for Travis County Constable, and we were unsuccessful in that race, but we were successful at pushing it to a runoff election. We were trying to unseat an incumbent, and we did run it to a runoff, but we did lose in the runoff election, and that has actually helped me a little bit with this race, running for city council. Also, with being on different television news programs has helped me a lot as well, and with all that, I think that I'll be able to reach out to the voters. I think I understand what the voters want in our city, and we're gonna do our best to make sure that we can get Austin moving, because our logo is Cargill will get the cars moving.
Wonderful. So thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate your sharing about yourself and what you're doing and how we can get involved. Can you help us know how we could learn more about you and your campaign?
Absolutely. Please go to cargillfortexas.com. You can reach us on Facebook at Cargill for Texas. We're also on Twitter, Cargill for Texas. You can email us at michael@cargillfortexas.com. And other telephone numbers on there as well. Definitely do your research. And if you don't like me, I just say, hey, vote for someone. Don't stay home. Please vote, because that's one thing that we don't do that well here in the U.S. We do not vote, at all. There are some countries where they have 90% of the people in that country will vote. But here in the United States, we don't have those numbers. It's nowhere near. It's only 10%. And that's sad.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We got that. Cargill for Texas. I'm excited about that. Thanks for joining us, Michael, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Very, very cool. When I piece those together, it'll be right at 15 minutes.
Super. Excellent.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.
Well,
Thanks so much for joining us.
All right.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah,
Hey, Justin. Thanks.
No problem.
Walking precincts is a heck of a way to get exercise, man.
So we just log on now, I guess, and you guys carry on, I'm assuming?
Yep.
We're trying to figure out.
Yep. Thanks, Justin.
All right, no worries. Take care.
All right, bye.
Okay. All right, looks like Brandon, we're going to do that one next, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Brandon, say something.
Something.
Ah, there we go.
There we go. Shall I do this one, Paul, or do you want to do it?
No, you do it, please, Rob.
Okay.
Just give me a cue when you're ready to fly.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Give in 5. Hi, and welcome back to the Polite Society podcast. We have Brandon Combs with us again. Brandon, our rights of self-defense might be just a little safer, the California legislature is finally out of session. Would you give us a wrap-up about our wins, losses, and ties?
I'd love to. Thanks for having me back on. This was an interesting year. Last year we had about 60 bills that we fought. This year we had about 20 some odd bills overall, and there's only 4 that made it to the governor there at the end. One made it to his desk earlier this year, which he signed. But really, when you're looking at the win-loss ratio prior to the governor's action, in a state where the Brady campaign rates at an A+, and all of the anti-gun groups sort of use California as the model, to have very, very few anti-gun proposals making its way through what is, I think, objectively a very anti-gun legislature is a testament to the hard work of the grassroots and the pro-gun groups that are working together and doing a lot of work that generally goes unnoticed.
Well, which bills did we stop?
Well, for example, just recently, I think the big one that everybody's sort of happy about still, riding a bit of an emotional wave there, is SB 53, Kevin De Leon's ammo bill. That was a bill that, they continued to amend right down to the wire to make it more palatable both to the governor and to some other members who were moderate and not exactly supportive of the bill. So, even down to the wire, we were up until 2:30 in the morning last Saturday, because that's how long the legislature ran, and we were literally the last bill out before they adjourned for the year. So it was sort of a hairy night where we were just waiting and biting our fingernails quite a bit. We ended up getting a 35-35 kill, and quite happy about that. Unfortunately, sorry, go ahead.
It's got to be the ugliest win to go down to the last minutes with a tie vote. Yow!
It was a tiring win, but I wouldn't call that ugly. I mean, if you look at the political composition of the legislature, the fact is they actually at one point they kept it on call because they were hoping Kevin De Leon was really he and his floor jockey in the assembly were really pushing for folks. They got up to 37, and then it backed down to 35. So the reality is that we were really hammering hard. We were running drills all night long, having people target specific members, calling the office. And we ended up actually pulling a couple of votes away from them. So we never really believed, unless there was some sort of a weird turn, that they were going to come up with 41. But you had to stay on top of it all night long.
No, refresh my memory. Didn't 8 Democrat senators abstain from voting on this bill?
Yeah, the bill was in the assembly on the floor, and there were definitely quite a few. There were quite a few Dems that had what we call take a walk. They basically didn't want to go on the record or sort of put themselves at odds. The caucus sometimes allows moderates with either targeted seats where they're in danger of being kicked out in the next election, or Dems in conservative-ish pro-gun communities where they have to sort of do that. And that's what happened here, is we made sure that those guys didn't get soft and go with Kevin De Leon and Rob Bonta as floor jockey.
What bills are on Governor Brown's desk now?
It's a great question. So a little procedural history here with these bills. There are 4 bills heading to the governor. Those bills are SB 808, AB 1014, AB 1609, and SB 199. Now, technically speaking, only SB 199 has made it to the governor's desk. It was engrossed and enrolled and then presented to the governor. The other bills have not made it to the governor's desk, but they are heading there.
Well, what do these bills do?
Well, to wrap it up, in a nutshell, I suppose, they further infringe on Second Amendment rights even worse than we already have here in the Golden State. But to be a little more specific, SB 808 is sort of I don't even know what to say other than it's just flat insane. It would require that any handgun in the state that is unserialized, and we're talking about valuable guns from the early 20th century, would have to be defaced with a DOJ-issued serial number after you applied for registration. So every single handgun in the state would have to have a serial number. Every long gun after December 1968 would have to have a serial number inscribed. And additionally, any home-built firearm would not only have to be serialized and registered with the Department of Justice, but you would be banned from from selling it, transferring it, or even inheriting the thing. It's just crazy.
Even after it's been serialized?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if you comply with the law, you're still hosed. And what we told them is, look, not only are we seeing serious constitutional issues in the bill, but the reality is that if you want to incent, the good citizens, the law-abiding citizens of California to not comply, this is how you do it.
Yeah, amen. So in reality, the governor's going to get a crack at all four of these bills. Has there been any smoke signals from the governor's office? Do we know what he's thinking on any of these?
Well, we actually met with the governor's office recently, and my impression coming out of that meeting was that SB 808. I think that the governor's office does recognize some of the issues that we argued on SB 808. I think that some of the other bills are toss-ups. Governor Brown is very, I'll call him, independent, and even of his staff. He sort of takes his own lines with things, so it's difficult to predict, but I do think that you're going to see at least a couple of signs, and I'm hoping at least one or two vetoes.
What should California gun owners do now, and what should gun owners that are maybe in adjacent states or care about California legislation do now?
Well, every single California gun owner can get involved on our dime. We can get emails, faxes, and hard copy letters in to the governor's office just by going to vetoguncontrol.com. And you take 30 seconds, you fill out a form, you send it in, and it turns into 4 individual letters of opposition on each of the bills that they go in 3 different ways. I think that's a very powerful tool. Last year we dropped off 67,000 individual letters at the governor's office, and this year we're hoping to drop off well over 100.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that we're starting to see a far more engaged grassroots, and that's what we need. We need to bring those sorts of numbers to the table because not only is it a voting block, but if you can create a pain and pain avoidance situation, politicians do listen.
Brandon, you brought up a good point, and I've heard you say it before. I'm gonna mock some of my fellow gun owners a little bit. You mean just paying $15 to the NRA once a year isn't enough?
No, it's not, and don't get me wrong. I encourage every single person, every gun owner or civil rights advocate out there to be a member of the NRA. Everybody should. That's the bottom line. But the reality is that it's sort of like paying taxes and not voting. You can pay Uncle Sam and square up at the end of the year, but if you're not participating in our democratic system, if we lose civic virtue, there is not going to be a single quarter legislature that's going to protect us.
We have to be involved or we'll lose our rights.
That's the bottom line.
Well, you've told people where they can go online to help you. I know you had, in an earlier interview, you mentioned something called a gun rights action station.
Yeah, that's right. We actually have 15 units that are hitting in different locales across the state on Monday, and probably Tuesday as well. So we're hoping to reach out to even more folks using these gun rights action stations to be able to do the very same thing that you could do on the internet, but perhaps they're not connected and they're unaware. I think that they're going to be quite interesting to see how folks react to them. But in addition to that, we're going to be rolling out a number of mobile native applications to sort of reach into some different arenas as well. So we're very excited about not just the gun rights action station system, but really the whole ecosystem of grassroots enabling applications. I think that leveraging technology is going to be really, really key over the next few years, not just at the state level, but at the local and national level as well.
will you make public where the gun rights action stations are located if I wanted to see one in my area?
Yeah, as soon as they're out and live, the individual stores are going to be making some posts on their websites and Facebook pages. But the easiest way to see what's going on and get the latest and greatest news is to go to facebook.com/CalFFL, CALFFL, and facebook.com/gunpolicy.
That's where I'll look, because if there was one nearby, I'd like to go talk to the store managers and see how they're received. Sounds like we need to have you back in a couple of weeks. Fortunately, the California legislature is done for the year. We won't have you on to tell you about, we won't have you on and you'll tell us about how our rights are attacked. But we will have some news about these gun rights action stations.
Yeah, and indeed, hopefully we have a lot of good news to report from the governor's office.
That too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're clear of that one. Very cool. My laptop I see show notes on just went away, so trying to reload, but it's going to take a few seconds. Do we want to go ahead and do the... Just 1 second here. Damn it.
Okay, Brandon, you can hang out and hear us make sausage if you want.
If you don't mind, I'll mute my mic and listen in.
Sure.
You can snicker in the background. That's what.
Well, I mean, Brandon, I mean, if you want to, you can hang out the whole show. You can add your 2 cents at any time you want, man.
Well, I appreciate that. That's very generous. I will try to stay out of everybody's hair, but if there's something interesting, I might put a little snark in there.
Oh, snark's a good thing. Always.
Absolutely.
Well, then let me grab the bourbon. I'll be right back.
Turn it up.
Bourbon and pants. What could be better? Okay.
Should be. Audio check 1 2. Just a second, guys. We're trying to get. We have an audio. Let me do this. Just a second.
Are we going to interview Frank next?
Oh man, am I gonna have to put on pants?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I said interview, not inspect.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, somebody said earlier that you know, if I wasn't careful, Rod Serling would have a case of plagiarism. And I said, well, I had that once, but you know, I found this salve that really took care of it quickly.
Plagiarism? Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is coming through. I can hear it doubled.
This is much fun.
Okay, are we ready to do the Frank portion now?
Frank is.
Okay. Oh, they did, huh? Susan says you started without me. Story of my life. It's all right. She starts without me all the time too.
Oh!
Yep. All right.
On YouTube, no less.
Yeah, well. All right. I'm going to bring us back this time, and here we go in 5, Hey, and welcome back. Joining us again, Frank Fiamingo. Of course, you all know Frank. He's the president of the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. Been a guest many times on the show. We're always glad to have him back. Also, just so that it's clear to everybody, the New Jersey Second Amendment Society is, of course, a sponsor of the show, and we are very proud to have them as sponsors of the show. Frank, thanks for coming back to the show, man.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul. I'm always happy to come on. I found it very interesting listening to Brandon earlier. He had some excellent ideas that I need to speak to him about all this technological, material that he's using.
Yeah, they're very much in the forefront out there on that. I was impressed the last time he was on when he talked about it. This is the first time I've been on. He's been on when I've been here, and I didn't even speak up. So
I was too fascinated with what he was saying to say anything.
Sure. Well, the reason I brought you on is we've got a couple developments and in the Shaneen Allen situation. But what I want to talk to you about first is something you're doing that I think is really cool, and that is you're doing some juror education.
Absolutely.
Could you let us know what you're doing with that? Absolutely.
We started in conjunction with FIJA, the Fully Informed Juror Association, a project called the NJ2AS Fully Informed Juror Project. And in effect, what it will involve is every Monday from now until the foreseeable future, we're going to have 3 shifts every Monday starting at 7:30 in the morning. And we're going to be handing out pamphlets that give potential jurors information that they need to be informed and responsible jurors who will know their rights and know what they can and cannot do. Because as we've seen in the past with for instance, the Brian Aitken case, you had a judge who gave instructions or actually withheld instructions from the jury that made it impossible for them to come to a legitimate deliberation. And we don't want to see that happen. We do not want to see innocent people become incarcerated because they followed some judge or prosecutor's instructions at the cost of their own conscience. So as a result, we're going to be handing out this literature. Anyone has any questions, we'll be happy to talk to them. We want there to be a pool of potential jurors throughout New Jersey who, when faced with making deliberations on such cases such as Second Amendment cases and other cases where you have, individuals who maybe technically have been arrested for a crime that, in effect, there's no victim, there's no criminal intent, and there's no prior criminal record. And these people should be diverted from the prosecutorial process into something like pretrial intervention, maybe given a fine, a slap on the wrist, and be sent home. But I can give you some examples, some recent examples, if you'd like. There's a young lady named Shaneen Allen who lives in Pennsylvania. She has a valid Pennsylvania carry permit, and this happened last fall. Shortly after, she had been robbed twice, so that was the impetus for her getting a firearm in the first place. And then she went through the arduous process of qualifying for a Pennsylvania carry permit. And so she was checked for prior criminal record, for mental health problems, and so forth, fingerprinted, the whole ball of wax. And she qualified. She was a new firearms owner, because she only had the carry permit for like a week, and she made the error of crossing over into New Jersey. And if you have the time, I'd like to give you a little bit of my impression of what that's like. Do we have time for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. All right, hang on, guys. There is a fifth dimension beyond that which is reasonable to man. It is a dimension as empty as space and as mindless as insanity. It is the middle ground between knowledge and ignorance, between reality and perversion. And it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is a dimension of grave injustice. It is an area we will call the Jersey Zone. Imagine, if you will, a little spot of land lying somewhere between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. On one side of the border, there is freedom and individual responsibility. On the other, there is oppression and regulation. Suddenly, you find yourself with one foot on one side of the border and one foot on the other. On the left, you are a law-abiding citizen, lawfully prepared to protect your life and family from any potential predator. On the right, you are a second-degree felon accused of unlawful gun possession and liable to serve a 10-year prison sentence. That is when you begin to realize that you have indeed crossed over into the Jersey Zone. So that's my impression of where we are at this point in New Jersey.
By the way, I love that. By the way,
we did this the other day. We had Shanine Allen live and in person at the Tea Party of Middlesex County meeting. She's a lovely person, by the way, lovely family, and we met her, and I was chosen to introduce her, which was a great honor for me. Mm-hmm. And I read this, and of course, everybody kind of got what it was that I'm trying to say, and that is, how is it possible? I mean, when you think about this, just as a human being, forget about gun rights, forget about, what your political stance is. When you think about the actual real possibility that you could be standing on the border between Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and you could actually be on one side a completely law-abiding individual with a carry permit and being qualified to protect your life and your family, and on the other side, you are a felon, liable for a 10-year prison sentence. It is unfathomable to me, and I live here.
Yeah, it's certainly not a great situation. It's I often say, if you know before you go, and I hate to say this about New Jersey, because it's not. I mean, it's not a bad. It's actually a fairly pretty state when you get outside the huge cities. But I can't think of one person where I've said, yeah, I would go to New Jersey. It just no. Not just in gun laws, but in a whole lot of other ways. It is.
We're overregulated. We're overtaxed. The law enforcement is overreaching. The prosecution is overreaching. The judicial system is overreaching. So these are things that we have to deal with. Now, why is New Jersey the way that it is? There's a lot of different theories. We're densely populated, and all the populations live primarily in the inner cities. So therefore, what people know about things like freedom and individual responsibility are juxtaposed to gangs, drug dealers, and career criminals who pretty much run not only the streets, but the county, the municipal and county governments.
Yeah.
So, that being the case, it's very difficult for us to change what we need to change. But we're going to do it. I mean, we are determined that we are going to make these changes. And as Brandon was saying earlier, and I could not agree with him more, it's all about participation. When he said 22,000 out of 1 million people participated in the electoral process,
yep,
that pretty much tells you right there what has to be done. We have to shake up the people who believe as we do. And by the way, it's not any one cultural group. It's not any one ethnic group or socioeconomic group who loves their children, who wants to see them grow and prosper, who wants to see a clean environment and the ability to live as an independent, free, responsible individual. That's pretty much a universal goal, I would say, among most groups. The question is, just getting people motivated to overcome the inertia that they've gotten used to.
Well, if I could, Frank, we're coming up a little bit here on the end of the segment before too long. A couple things I want to get to. Number one, I want you to brag a little bit because you actually directly helped Shaneen Allen, not actually fairly recently, right?
Well, what we did was, I had the good fortune of talking with Tom Gresham. Everybody knows from Gun Talk Radio, and I was on his program talking about Shaneen Allen. He said, what we should do is we should put up some billboards. And I said, yeah, that's a really good idea. Next thing I know, he's got listeners calling in, donating money. He calls Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation, and I get a call the next morning saying, hey, look, we've already collected X number of dollars, and we want to help you with this billboard campaign. So next thing I know, we had this money. We're putting up 4 billboards in and around the Atlantic County Criminal Court complex, which is where the area where she was arrested. And we're going to also, with the Fully Informed Jury project, we're going to be handing out literature. We collected enough money not only to put up the billboards, but also to present Shaneen with a check for $1,000 to help her pay her household bills, which are mounting up because guess what? She got fired when she was arrested.
Yeah, that may be the biggest injustice of all. If everything right now, if all the charges were dropped, she still lost her job over this thing.
Absolutely. Now, we'll do everything we can to help her get another job, but it puts her behind. One other thing that I want to mention real quickly that we'll be doing is Governor Christie's holding a fundraiser. It's called a birthday bash thing, that he's having on September 10th, which is his birthday, and Mitt Romney's coming in, and basically it's a big fundraiser. We are going to be gathering there to demonstrate our support for Shaneen and to try to convince Governor Christie that we really need him to use his influence, his bully pulpit, to find justice for Shaneen.
If I could, and I'm afraid I don't have the information right in front of you, but didn't I hear that the Atlantic County court system has one more person yet besides Shaneen that got arrested for a concealed handgun with a valid out-of-state? Didn't it happen one more time again?
As a matter of fact, Judge Donio, who is the judge in Shaneen's case, just did a plea deal with a gentleman who was in that situation. It was kind of an odd situation where he had his valid Pennsylvania carry permit. He had his firearm with him. He was getting married. His friends, kind of kidnapped him and dragged him off to Atlantic City to celebrate his bachelor party. And he put the gun in the room, and one thing led to another, and eventually he was charged with gun possession. And the judge actually let him off with a reasonable plea deal, but he's a convicted felon for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so he loses his gun rights forever. That doesn't sound like a bargain to me. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming up on the end of the segment, Frank. Before we go, I just want you to, if you would, plug the website, because I think that's where they're going to be able to get the most information about what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, there are so many projects and things that we have going on, I couldn't possibly mention them all. So I do ask people who are interested in helping Shaneen Allen and getting involved to go to NJ2AS.com. That's NJ like New Jersey, 2A, the number 2, the letter A, S.com, NJ2AS.com, and you'll see her picture there. Click on her picture, and that will give you the bulk of the information. If you go back to our homepage and look at our events section, you'll see all of the different events that we're holding, and I do encourage you to do that. Now, nationwide, please, people from out of the state of New Jersey, call the Governor Christie's office and express your discontent with the way Shanine is being persecuted, because I believe that those calls will have an impact on the governor, maybe even more so than calls from within the state.
Yeah, and Christie came out with a statement a while back saying he's not going to get involved until it's totally gone through the court system. We need to keep putting the pressure on, because he can't pardon her right now, but he can lean on the prosecutors. He can lean on his attorney general. He can put pressure on. He can't pardon her, but he can get involved. We need to keep putting pressure on, right?
That is my belief, Paul. I mean, after all, he is the chief executive.
You bet. Well, we are coming up to the end of the segment, so we'll hang on, everybody. We'll be right back right after this. And nobody else jumped in. I'm out here.
It turns out I did, but I had the mic muted because I was fiddling around, and by the time I fixed it, you'd moved on.
Oh. Okay.
Besides,
Amateur hour.
All right. We got let's see, River Rat. That's Greg says, greetings from Little America, Flagstaff, Arizona.
Whoa.
Hey, Greg. And let's see here, trying to see if anything else has popped. Nope, I think we're good. I think that's about it. So, let's see here. All right. Ready to do this open then?
Oh, if we have to.
I'm ready.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Coming back in 5. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society Podcast, recorded live Saturday, September 6th, 2014. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rachel Malone, and on tonight's show, we'll talk with Michael Cargill, who is running for office in my hometown of Austin, Texas.
I'm John Richardson, and we have Brandon Combs back with us to talk about new firearms laws in the state of California.
I'm Rob Morse, and we have our weekly gun news and self-defense stories.
So, climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 267 of the Polite Society Podcast starts right now. Hey, and welcome back. This is the personal news section of our podcast. I guess I'll go ahead and start things off. Back home, got home late yesterday, and it seems to be a weekly thing. My truck needs some repairs, so I'm going to be home on Monday as well. This time the air conditioner blew out on the truck, and really hard to go to sleep with no AC anywhere. And it's 80 degrees out when you park the truck at midnight at night. So didn't get a whole lot of sleep the last couple of nights I was on the road. Got home absolutely totally exhausted. And Monday the truck gets repaired. So I'm getting a little bit of a 3-day weekend on the weekend after Labor Day. A little bit of dry fire practice for me. Not a lot of gun related stuff, other than just looking on the internet. And by the way, I do have one gun related thing that's going on. It's not here yet, but I have a Concealment Solutions Sidewinder Pro on the way out from Utah. Jason's made one up for me, and he's going to be sending it out here. So I'll give everybody a report on it when I get it, but I'm really looking forward to that. That's about all that's been going on with me. So next on my latest list of faces down at the bottom is John. John, what's been up with you, man?
Well, not much in the way of gun stuff to report since Wednesday. I did order a Kydex holster to go with my new SIRT pistol, the Smith & Wesson version. But it's kind of hard to practice your draw without a holster, unless, of course, you want to end up like Plaxico Burress. So I'll be looking forward to getting that.
You could do that with a SIRT pistol, John.
Well, yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. I thought the reason you didn't want the Glock was that I thought you had an M&P.
Well, actually, the M&P is barbs. Do have a holster for it.
But it's barbs.
It's barbs.
Okay.
Now everything becomes clear. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. I don't care if it is a SIRT pistol. You do not want to get used to Mexican-style carry.
No.
Alrighty then.
I'll tuck a magazine behind a belt in a hurry, but no, not a hand. Not no.
Yeah, it's a different matter. Yes, exactly.
So, Rachel, you're next on my list of faces. What's been going on with you?
Well, yesterday I realized that my kid didn't know how to disassemble some of my guns. So that's the beauty of homeschooling. I homeschool him, so I figured, hey, for yesterday's class, we just do some gun handling. So we took apart and cleaned and reassembled my AR and my XD, and had a lot of fun doing that. He learned a lot about the gun parts, and we had a great time. Getting some good Hoppy's 9 out and rim oil, getting good smells in the house. Always smells great. And also, I think they need some room freshener that just smells like rim oil or something. It would be awesome. And it also gave me some ideas for maybe some type of upcoming segment that Rob and I talked about on children and firearms. So stay tuned for that in the near future when I get a chance to write some things up for that.
Awesome.
In addition to that, I've also been making some plans for a Battle Road defensive handgun class with some friends of mine. And I was just thinking, you really know you have great friends when everybody's idea of hanging out and celebrating the time that everyone's in town together is, hey, let's get together and do some defensive handgun training and work on our tactical handguns. So that's coming up probably sometime in November. I'm not necessarily sure it's going to be a private class, so if any of our Texas listeners or anybody who wants to drive to Texas is interested in coming to a class with absolutely super cool people, let me know and I will give you some details.
Battle Road is in the Austin area, right?
Near Austin, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's we do have a ton of downloads in Texas, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then next on my list of faces down there is Rob. Rob, what's been up with you?
It's been a busy week in the left coast. Hey, you guys know because I sent you a sneak peek. The podcast finally has business cards. I already gave some out. That's because I went to a steel shoot this morning.
Oh.
So let's see. What beyond that, I got a couple 500 rounds of ammo for 9mm for a friend. Dry practice. Wrote an article. John, that reminds me that you have the SIRT pistol. One of our listeners sent me a link to open source software that records the shot pattern from your SIRT pistol. I threw it in the show notes. And listener John from Texas, who also wrote about a SIRT pistol, take note. That's about it.
Okay.
I'll look forward to using it or trying it out.
Very, very cool. Well, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and, because we've got a really big news segment coming up, so let's go ahead and jump off to break, and when we come back, we'll get into that news. Hang on, everybody. Right back, right after this. Awesome.
Okay, I have to ask.
Yep.
What's a SIRT pistol?
It's a laser pistol where the trigger resets.
Oh.
So it's like doing laser tag, but it's got the shape of a firearm, either a Glock or an M&P so far.
And the weight.
Okay.
And, there you go, shape and weight. That's thermodynamics. You guys don't need that. There we go. Okay, what's the order we're using? I'll just take them in the order they appear then. John, Paul, Rachel.
George and Ringo.
I knew it.
Oh dear Lord! I mentioned that they want it was a let's see here 60-pound ruck 3.25 miles. One guy just said in that because they tagged me in it. I'll do ED09 bomb suit, 98 pounds with helmet, visor up, 5K. That's 3 miles. That's nuts.
Hey Rachel,
Yes.
would you come behind me and assign the comments?
Yes, I will do that.
All right, guys, I'm going to drop off. So it was a real pleasure, as usual, and I will catch you guys soon.
See you in a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Now you told me you are going to be there, right?
I'm going to. At the last minute, I was able to get a flight, and we're going to do it. Alexander's also coming, my VP.
Awesome.
Cool. So I'll see you guys then.
Susan says to tell you hi, and I will absolutely look forward to seeing you here in a couple weeks, man.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, be good.
Alrighty.
See you.
Bye.
Okay. Are
Brandon, are
we
you still with us?
I'm sorry?
Hey, Brandon, are you going to be at the the Gun Rights Policy Conference?
He's got his mic muted.
Okay.
Unmute yourself, buddy.
No, we can't hear you.
Well, okay. Type in your answer. I think he was. Oh, Jersey Zone. Okay, you like Frank's Jersey Zone. And so, put your cursor high up in the screen, and there's a little symbol that should appear with a microphone. Click it because it's crossed out right now.
now? You should be able to talk.
Do you have a mute thing on your headsets?
Headphones?
Yeah. Because I've got one there.
So who was last? Rob. John.
Oh,
Hey,
Yeah.
Hey,
Brandon.
there you go.
really? We're working now.
Yes.
I feel like I'm the Verizon guy. Can you hear me now?
You not hear me now?
Jesus. All right. To answer the question, I apologize for the trouble there. John, yes, I will be. I'm trying to figure out what day I'm coming in.
Okay.
I've got to go into a thing in San Francisco, and I'm not sure if I can be there on the first day or not. But I'm going to definitely get back to Chicago.
Cool. See
On
you
the
there.
first day, do you mean Friday? Because most of what happens on Saturday. Friday's really cool, but you got to be there on Saturday, man.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to try to get a red eye out of San Francisco Friday night just to get in about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning back there.
Good. We'll hold a drink for you.
We'll see how long I can survive on Saturday with that, but I'm definitely going to get back there.
Awesome. All right.
Did you get to ask the question you were going to ask?
I still see a live button. I don't know if I should wait till after or not.
Ah, right.
Yeah,
You want
'cause
me-
we are live to YouTube. I mean, it's up to you.
I'll tell you what. Why don't I follow up on email or whenever you guys are just chatting again? I didn't want to bring this up on the air, so.
Yeah, because we're gonna be live yet for at least another 45 minutes to do the rest of the show.
Gotcha. Okay, no worries. I just had a couple of questions. I'll ping you guys offline.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to the next time.
You bet.
Well, we'll see you in a couple weeks. 3 weeks.
That you will.
Yeah, we got to have you on when you're down there too. We'll be recording a bunch of stuff down there, so we got to have you on while you're there.
I'd love to, and then by then I should have some more fun stuff to show you.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Take care.
Now nobody here but just us chickens now.
Yep.
Okay. We ready to kick off the news segment?
I'm ready.
I think so.
Do you want me to lead in since I have the first story?
Yep, that's how we generally take it.
Okay, in 5. Hi, and welcome to the news segment of the Polite Society podcast. Our first story comes from the state of New York. Joseph Palumbo, co-owner of the Albion Gun Shop, released information today that the New York State police officers from the Narcotics Enforcement Unit demanded the shop's release of all customer information on those who had purchased New York SAFE Act compliant rifles, and they did this under the threat of a warrantless SWAT raid. Since the passing of the New York Secure Ammunition and Firearms Enforcement SAFE Act, the New York State Troopers Narcotics Enforcement Unit has been delegated to enforce the SAFE Act and to handle all matters pertaining to the SAFE Act. The unit visited Mr. Palumbo on several occasions, disrupting his business, to see that Mr. Palumbo is compliant with the SAFE Act provisions for licensed gun shops and owners. Quote, "The New York State Police told me that my guns were New York SAFE compliant. The chief of the Medina Police told me that my rifles were New York SAFE compliant and in fact purchased one of the guns from my shop." Unquote. James D. Tresmond, attorney for the Albion Gun Shop, raised the possibility of entrapment. Go figure. Quote unquote, "My client disclosed to me that he would not have sold these rifles to the general public had they not been approved by the New York Division of State Police." Unquote.
You know, that makes perfect sense that Governor Cuomo got the drug cops to enforce the gun laws, because we all know the drug cops are usually the most corrupt unit on the police force.
This brings up, though, something pretty interesting. Even if the cops weren't dirty, they are willing to do whatever the state police say, whereas a lot of other law enforcement said, look, we're not going to enforce this law. It's crazy. The sheriffs, you'd have to pick a city where the sheriff would not interpose himself between the narcs and this gun store.
You know, that's a great point, because oftentimes an elected official or law enforcement or what have you, someone who claims to agree with you on rights but refuses to stand up for it is just as bad as someone who completely disagrees with you.
Well, what I was wondering, suppose these guns are absolutely safe. Can the store afford to defend themselves if a bunch of bogus charges are brought up by this narc unit?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. They could just prosecute them to death. The state has, well, if the New York State, as I suspect they do, follows the federal government's guidelines that we've got unlimited money, they can just prosecute this place to death.
Man, that sounds absolutely Soviet, doesn't it?
It's almost like sending them to a psych ward like the Soviets did.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and jump off here. We got the next story is we brought you a number of pro self-defense news articles we found in the mainstream press. Perhaps this next news item explains why the press has changed their attitude. In San Francisco, a TV reporter was robbed at gunpoint while he was sitting inside his television station news van. The thieves took his wallet, computers, and television equipment. All this happened in gun-free San Francisco.
I wonder if he got good pictures. You think?
I don't know.
Now, being serious for a second, go ahead, Mr. News Announcer. Tell me once more. Tell me that the police will protect me. I dare you.
I wonder if that reporter wouldn't have maybe liked to now see if he could get a concealed weapons permit.
Good luck in San Francisco, given that I think
There are
they
two.
Yeah.
In a city and county of over 800,000 people.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, hey, moving up from California, things should get better, right? Let's find out. Firearms manufacturer in Oregon was suddenly blocked from processing credit card transactions. The company that Calico Light Weapon Systems used to process the transaction said the company was involved in illegal activities. The manufacturer denied this, and the bank would not specify what activities were illegal. The manufacturer believes it's the latest victim of the Obama administration's Operation Choke Point. Operation Choke Point lets the Departments of Justice and Treasury block banks from servicing selected businesses. Calico Systems recovered by partnering with Macmillan Merchant Solutions. Macmillan is based in Arizona and was started by members of a firearm manufacturing company. And, you know, Macmillan simply decided that it won't be cowed by the government's strong-arm tactics.
I would like to say, kudos to Macmillan Group.
Absolutely.
They could wind up being honestly a financial powerhouse, because if this Operation Choke Point continues, there's going to be, and not just the firearms industry, there's going to be a lot of very legal businesses that are going to be looking for financial solutions, and Macmillan looks like it's putting itself in position to serve them.
Absolutely. I mean, they took a risk. They stepped out. They could either be extremely successful, or they could also be targeted. But they stood up, and they're there. And I appreciate that.
But weren't we told that Operation Choke Point was being taken down, and no, it wasn't really supposed to apply to firearms firms or any other businesses that the Obama administration didn't like?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to ask that same question. Going back to Macmillan had a long-term banking relationship with Bank of America that was all of a sudden stopped one day, and that was even before Operation Choke Point. So they said, "Oh, we don't deal with firearms anymore." So,
yeah, and if I remember right, when that happened, they had A1 plus. I mean, just fantastic credit. When Bank of America said, "Yeah, see ya." Yeah, just there was no real reason given other than you work with guns. We don't want it. We don't want to work with you anymore.
Yeah.
And now this Operation Choke Point. Now remember, this comes from the administration that brought you Fast and Furious and all kinds of other a little bit less than constitutional programs.
You mean a Chicago politician didn't tell me the truth?
Exactly.
No way.
Jeez. I just looked it up. Calico Light Weapons Systems sells springs, screws, and small gun parts. They were accused of selling firearms over the internet.
Wow.
I'm rolling my eyes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's going to get to the point where, I mean, come on, you go to buy a recoil spring because my recoil spring on my Glock wears out. Am I going to be able to, because the financial what happens when MasterCard shuts them down or Visa shuts them down? You know what I mean?
Well, we will have to register those components through the FFL. They will have to be serialized in the People's Republic of California.
Yeah, next. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Point Marion Police Department in Fayette County closed its doors after settling lawsuits against 2 police officers. The city manager of this Pennsylvania town said, and I quote, "We had to lay off all the officers due to the fact that we do not have police liability insurance." Close quote. The insurance carrier dropped the department after paying 2 settlements against the department's only 2 officers. One of the officers was fired from 2 other nearby police departments before he came to the city. This time the officer was sued by the ACLU for arresting a citizen who was recording the officer on his cell phone. The ACLU and the citizen won. Insurance premiums went up tenfold. The city can't afford the insurance and therefore closed their police department. The city is now patrolled by the state police.
You know, I'd like to jump in and comment because I did actually read that article. It was one of the few that I was able to read earlier today. But the citizens in this town are now freaking out a little bit because, you know, one of the things we like to say here on the show is when seconds count, police are only minutes away. Well, the state police can be up to 30 minutes away. Folks, this is why you are armed. This is why you protect your house yourself. I don't know. I feel sorry for the town, but then again, I kind of don't because they should have vetted their officers. Somebody fired from 2 previous police departments, you still give a guy a job? Yeah, I think you brought this one on yourself.
Probably did.
Paul, you drive through lots of countryside every day where any law enforcement is at least 30 minutes away.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, that's not uncommon. You know, this happened, this is a long time ago. Susan and I were on our way up to, we at the time lived in a little town called Hartford, South Dakota. We were on our way up to Aberdeen for an EMT conference. And the route we took was up I-29 to US 12. We were going to turn, and it's about a 200-mile trip. Well, we were about, I want to say we're about 140 miles into this 200-mile trip, and it was a little icy, and the Jeep we were driving, we caught some ice on a bridge and a gust of wind at the same time, and we went off into the ditch, and the Jeep rolled while we were both wearing our seatbelts. But it took, Susan, what would you say? It was a good 20 minutes for the first... It was for the first people to get there, period. It was at least 20 minutes for the first, and I believe it was the Highway Patrol that showed up first.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon for, in a lot of the areas, you to be 20, 30 minutes away from help. And then the first medical help, I believe, was about a half an hour out. So we were about 10 miles from that town. It took them about 30 minutes to get there. Of course, you're talking in these rural areas. You're talking about, the people, they're at home, having dinner, doing whatever. They got to get ready, leave their house, go to wherever their vehicle is they're going to come help you with, get in that vehicle, and then come to get you. So, if you're talking if you're talking police protection, one would hope the State Patrol is on 24/7, but they could be they could be 2-3 towns over.
Well, I looked up where Port Marion is, and it's right on what looks to be the West Virginia border. It's a town of about 1,100. One of the police officer that was involved in the one who had been fired, he'd been fired, number one, for exposing himself to a minor, and the second time for attacking a handcuffed man while he was filmed doing it.
Yeah. He hit somebody that was in handcuffs at the time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and they still hired this guy.
I can't see them being that desperate.
No. Wow.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me follow in the next story. It's actually some good news. The Second Amendment Foundation and the NRA's Civil Rights Legal Defense Fund are teaming up to sue the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas Islands in U.S. District Court over their ban on the possession and use of handguns. The Commonwealth of Northern Marianas Islands is a U.S. territory. As Second Amendment Foundation head Alan Gottlieb notes, quote, The Second Amendment does not just apply to the continental United States and Hawaii. It also applies to territories under U.S. jurisdiction. The issue is a fundamental civil right, not only to possess a handgun, but also to use firearms for self-defense purposes, which is currently banned in the Northern Marianas. I will admit I had to look up where the Northern Marianas were located, and they are located north and east of the Philippines in the Pacific Ocean, and includes the island of Saipan. Actually, it's just north of, I think Guam would be considered Southern Marianas.
I think this is great news, and not just what these organizations are doing, but simply the fact that NRA and SAF are teaming up to work together on the issue.
Absolutely.
I remember we covered it a few episodes back. Guam now issues concealed carry permits. It's time for the other islands to catch up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I remember because aren't they under the same circuit court that issued the Peruta ruling, and that's why they hustled it through?
Oh.
Yes, they would be under the Ninth Circuit
they're
Court
in the
of
ninth.
Appeals.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. All right, let's go ahead and we got some more stories, but we're running a little long on this segment. We're going to jump to break, and we've got more news when we come back right after this. Awesome. All right. Sorry for taking that wild tangent, but I thought it was
Which one?
The response time.
Oh, yeah,
No.
That's cool. It's good stuff.
No.
Where we were headed?
Yeah, we were headed to the EMT conferences. Yeah.
You may have other sins to apologize for. That wasn't one of them.
Okay. All right. Ready to do this?
You're it.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. Well, our last story mentioned the Second Amendment Foundation. Let's go ahead and keep talking about them. SAF has now officially merged with JPFO. Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership will officially become part of the SAF. SAF operations will move from, well, no, this says SAF operations will move from Wisconsin to Washington, but it's actually JPFO will move from Wisconsin to Washington. The new board of directors at JPFO has not yet been made public, and I'd like to make a comment here. My comment on this is, it's not the best possible solution, but it's a whole lot better than JPFO going away, and I think that's what we were looking at. Is we were looking at either this happened or JPFO went away, and I certainly think this is much better than JPFO just going away.
Absolutely.
Rachel, I think you're up.
Yes. Well, school's started, weather's changed, and some other things are changing this fall in Idaho. And that's because Idaho became the 7th state to allow concealed carry on campus. Oregon, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Mississippi, and Wisconsin also allow students to conceal weapons on campus. Campus carry in Idaho requires an enhanced permit, and some 3,000 permits have already been issued. Some of the permits were issued to Idaho college students.
When you read the news and you read what college administrators said when these laws were being passed, some of these college administrators are going crazy right now.
College administrators are actually crazy to oppose campus carry. I've had a number of students who have been veterans, former soldiers, former Marines, as students in college courses. We'd be crazy to disarm them. These experienced adults have seen more stress and demonstrated more self-control than any university administrator.
Yeah, well, we definitely would be crazy to disarm them because soldiers and veterans absolutely have the right to carry on campus along with the rest of us.
Isn't that crazy? We could have a law enforcement officer, some guy who's a patrolman, and he wants to go take a college course, often in law enforcement. And nope, not on campus. That wouldn't be allowed. You go, what?
Yeah, no kidding. You know, I don't know. I have for the last it's been over a year that I've made the decision that I'm going, like Gary says, pants on, gun on. It's for every day for the past year, with the exception of when I'm going to be in Illinois the entire day. Pants go on, gun goes on, and so, but I am in. I'm a truck driver. I get into situations occasionally where people are torqued at me because I drive a big truck. I've been in conversation. I've been in heated conversations. I've been in shouting matches, and I wish, and it has never, outside of when I'm training, when I'm practicing, it has never crossed my mind once in the past year to draw my gun. I wish these administrators could spend time with normal people that carry every day, and realize that it's really a safety tool. And I once more went off on a tangent, and I apologize.
It actually brought up not what you were talking about, Paul, but campus carry. I mean, one way around it, which would probably drive most mainstream campuses nuts, is taking online courses. They can't. It's a good, if I can't go on your campus, at least I can take an online course somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, let's go another view of curriculum at schools. Most of us are familiar with the gun safety education for elementary school children. It's called the Eddie Eagle program. It's once again part of the curriculum in some Jacksonville, Florida schools. The schools allow parents to opt out of the gun safety program. Now, the only reason this made the news is that a few parents complained. One parent said he would have opted his child out of the program if he'd known in advance that it was developed by the NRA. The program encourages children to stop when they see a gun, not to touch it, to leave the area, and tell an adult right away. School officials said the district hopes utilizing the program will help prevent tragedies that start by children playing with guns.
Wow. I can't think of, and I don't know if anybody else can, but can anybody think of a better program for children about firearms than Eddie Eagle? Stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell an adult. Part of it's said that all publicity is good publicity as long as they spell the name right, but holy cow. Are they spelling the name right? You know what I mean?
It's the people who say we're for gun safety. That's like abstinence education, but it's abstinence about firearms.
But see, they're not. Even though
yeah, true. I agree. They're not for gun safety.
No, they're because if they were, what is Eddie Eagle teaching? For kids, it's teaching abstinence. What they're teaching is ignorance, not abstinence. They
right.
want their kids to know nothing about it,
okay.
So that
Good distinction.
And we're not going to get into. I don't want to get into a sex education talk here, but yeah, if we want to draw that parallel, anybody that doesn't want to teach Eddie Eagle to their kids is teaching ignorance. They're not teaching abstinence.
Yeah, and they're doing it out of fear. They don't understand it probably, and instead of trying to become educated themselves about it. They want to keep their kids from being educated, and that ignorance is honestly not smart at all. And again, it just, I'm glad there are options like this for the public school classrooms. I'm glad there's some of that going on, but it also reminds me of the beauty of homeschooling, that you can throw in gun safety, gun handling, even shooting at age-appropriate levels without going through any kind of government red tape or dealing with school regulations. I mean, it can be part of your actual curriculum and what you do.
And I wonder how much of this, because they're doing their kids a huge disservice. It seems to me like the people that don't even want their kids to learn Eddie Eagle, it seems to me like they're let's go a different route. Instead of going sex education, let's just say it's the same as people teaching their kids that, you know what, the sun really does revolve around the earth. Let's just, the earth is the center of the universe. That's the kind of thinking we're looking at here. Or maybe the earth really is still flat. That's the kind of education they're giving their kids. When their kids learn the real truth, that's, they're in danger of their kids looking like fools to their children.
Yep. Well, speaking of fools.
Oh, good one. Good one.
Ooh, wow.
Billionaire former mayor Michael Bloomberg knows how to pick his allies. We criticize the mayor for his organization, Mayors Against Illegal Guns. That is because so many of his mayors have been arrested for corruption. Once you'll take your money from Michael Bloomberg, you'll take money from anybody, it seems. Now we're seeing a similar thing happen to another Bloomberg group. Moms demand action for gun sense in America. Erica Quinn, the Oklahoma leader of Demanding Moms, has a restraining order against her. The restraining order bars Ms. Quinn from being within 300 yards of her children and prohibits her from having firearms. That is what is hard for Ms. Quinn to explain a picture of her holding a shotgun on her Twitter page.
Oh.
That would be rather hard to explain. My other thought is gun control means training regularly, and gun sense means taking a real class in armed self-defense. And that is how real moms keep their children safe.
I don't tweet. Does Twitter have Throwback Thursday where you go find old photos of you with firearms?
I think it might.
But even so, when did even so? I mean, come on, you can't unless. I suppose it's possible, but I have been a gun rights advocate for a lot longer than I've had this podcast. Maybe it's possible this person used to be a gun rights advocate, and then all of a sudden, when they thought they could be in charge of something, they jumped on the gun prohibition bandwagon. I don't know.
Well, what kind of just stands out to me here is that Ms. Quinn is barred from being within 300 yards of her children. And I'm making the assumption that she no longer has custody. Do you know how unlikely it is for a mother to lose custody of her kids, especially in a divorce? It almost never happens. And if it does happen, it's got to be for a really bad reason.
Well, not only that, to lose custody is rare. However, not only did she lose custody, she had a restraining order. That's rare to the, to nth power.
Extremely rare.
Right. Very rare and very difficult to happen.
So, and yet this, my understanding now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Shannon Watts knew this and still kept her on, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on then. The next story is, does it feel like there are one set of rules for government officials and another set of rules for ordinary citizens? Well, a judge from the 4th District Court of Appeals has said that judges in the district may enter courthouses armed and may carry concealed. The rest of us, well, we have to be fingerprinted. The rest of us have to undergo a background check. The rest of us have to demonstrate training and proficiency. And the rest of us are disarmed in most government buildings. So, but not judges. Not these judges.
Not if you're a judge, because judges are definitely special people in elite classes who don't in any way have to follow any of the same regulations because they are so special and elite.
I read where 2 very special and elite California judges were disciplined for having sex in their chambers. Does that count?
God, that's like something out of a soap opera.
Yeah, it does.
You know, could a judge enter a post office while armed?
That's a good point.
Will a U.S. Marshal arrest a district judge? Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Or a postal inspector.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to enter the Jersey zone for a minute. Shanine Allen was arrested for bringing a gun into New Jersey. Also in New Jersey, Bonnie Oliver Alamong was prosecuted for bringing her firearm to her sister's house to protect her sister from domestic abuse. Both are victims of New Jersey prosecutors. Well, now lawyers have asked to look at the prosecution record to see if there's a consistent pattern of abusive prosecution. Atlantic County Prosecutor Jim McClain did not hand over the documents as requested by defense attorneys.
You know, that says something when attorneys themselves question the impartiality of the prosecution.
Yeah.
Well, and this, you know, I've said it dozens of times. I'll freely admit I believe I stole it from Rob to start with, but I know I've said it a number of times. I believe I got it from Rob. We have a legal system, not a justice system.
Speaking of the justice system and our legal system, many gun owners across the country are subject to background checks as they buy firearms and get licensed to carry concealed. The background check is the holy grail of gun safety for gun prohibitionists. There was some disappointing news. It was revealed that a terrorist fighting for ISIS passed a background check and worked as a baggage handler at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. The Minneapolis Metropolitan Airports Commission handles security clearances and background checks for the airport. This came to light when the terrorist was recently killed while fighting in Syria.
Oh, this makes me feel so safe.
Hey, but you know, he passed his background check.
Yes, he did.
Those
And
background checks are important.
Yes, and by passing that background check, he had access to all areas of the airport, including the airplanes as they were being. He had access to airplanes at all times. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What could go wrong?
Easy would have him to have placed a bomb in the hold, you know, the luggage hold of any of the airplanes he was working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now he didn't. Yeah, once you pass that background check, once you work for the air, my son worked for the Sioux Falls security that works that does the airport security. And once you pass that once you got that little badge, guess what? You don't go through TSA security. You carry lunch on with you? Oh, gee, the lunch box just happened to get loaded on the plane, and oh, guess what? It didn't have lunch. It had C4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, great job keeping. And this is just another these background check laws. I mean, come on, anybody. You know, there are circumstances where some people, once they've committed a crime, yeah, sure, then they're not going to be able to get a gun, but. You know, I don't know. This kid apparently at one point did pass his background check, and then he was such a good guy he went off to go fight with ISIS.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. John, I think you got our gun quote, man.
I do, and it comes from Lynn Givens of Rangemaster. And actually, I was fortunate enough to train with her 2 or 3 years ago at a blogger shoot. She and her husband, Tom, were doing some training. Lynn had to say, quote, "I do not carry a pistol so I can impose my will on someone else. I carry a pistol so someone else cannot impose their will on me." Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back after this.
Awesome.
You know, actually, knowing Lynn Givens, the reason she started gun training was because of an abusive ex-spouse.
Oof. Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, that'll do it.
All right, we got another comment. We have, let's see here. Gary says, a few years back, I came across a rollover in the dead of winter on Montana 200 near the summit of Rogers Pass, east of Lincoln, Montana. It took the Montana State Patrol about an hour to show up.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and even if they're not far out, there was a huge, terrible wreck on I-35 going right through Austin where some 18-wheeler had a blowout, and his entire everything he was carrying was a bunch of steel plates, just flew all over the highway. There were tons of cars impacted and people injured. And my friend happened to be right there. He and his dad, and they're both first responders, and so they were on the scene doing triage, treating people. And they said that you're right there downtown Austin. They had ambulances showing up, and they couldn't get in just because of the debris all strewn across the highway.
Yeah.
And it took them forever.
Oh yeah. Once if you're anything 3 lanes or more, once things start jamming up, people blame trucks. It's not just trucks, it's all vehicles. People will, whatever lane they think might just carry them forward a quarter of a mile an hour faster, they'll jam up into that lane, and some people think, well, by God, I'm not going to let this happen, so I'll go as far left in my lane as I can, and I'll go jam up that so that people are driving on the breakdown lane on the left. I'm going to get enough of that lane so nobody can get through, and truck drivers will do that just as much as car drivers, but car drivers do too, or they'll go, maybe try to jam up the breakdown lane, so I'm sick of these little cars passing on the right but driving on the shoulder. Well, you know what that means? The police and the fire can't get through either. So, yeah, they're just, when people do that, they're just, jamming up the response as well. So, lesson to you 4-wheeler drivers and truck drivers, don't do that stuff. All right, DGUs, have we got everything all
I think
lined
it's
up
all
here?
signed out, yeah.
All right.
Looks like me.
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Okay, in 5. Hi, and welcome back to the Defensive Gun Use segment of the podcast. The Ottumwa, Iowa Police Department was dispatched to a burglary in progress at approximately 3:21 p.m. Tuesday. The homeowners called police after he found a man in his basement. The guy had gone downstairs to looking for his cat. What he found instead was a partially disrobed intruder. The homeowner called police and grabbed his handgun. 42-year-old Billy Ray Snow was arrested at the scene and charged with trespassing.
I'm going to bet there was intoxication involved as well. I mean, I break into a place and take off my clothes. Somehow,
yeah,
this
something's
isn't
wrong
making
with it.
sense if I'm sober.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense if I'm drunk either, but I'm work with me here.
Well, I mean, I read the story, and he actually made bail about an hour later, so not sure exactly what's going on there, but...
Yeah. Next story. A mob of teens in Milwaukee tried to rob a group of tavern employees as they were walking to their cars after closing Monday night. Fortunately, one of the employees was legally carrying a concealed handgun and fought back. One of the attackers, a 15-year-old with gang ties, big shock there, and a long criminal history, again, big shock, including armed robbery, was killed. Police took the rest of the teen attackers into custody. Milwaukee Police Lieutenant Mark Stanmeyer said the group was believed to have been responsible for dozens of robberies over the last 3 days. No charges have been brought against the man who defended the group, though he was originally taken into police custody.
Paul, now this is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yep.
But I'm from Chicago, and I'm going, if this happened in Illinois, then Chicago politicians would just say, we need to disarm everybody who's been in a bar. There, that would solve this.
But I don't think, if let me scroll back.
Except for the thugs.
Yeah, because the 15-year-old, well, maybe he was. In Chicago, he might have been in a bar, but I know in Milwaukee, you've got to be 21 to go in a bar.
Yep.
So, although, maybe he ignored that law too. I don't know. It's just a good guy had a gun and used it in the right way. Kudos on him.
And that's always
Amen.
a good thing. Always a good thing. Good way out of a worst case scenario, obviously. Speaking of which, let's see how things went down in this story from Nebraska. Barbara Haley called 911 after 24-year-old Jody Cudlas allegedly broke into her Omaha, Nebraska home around 3 a.m. She was awakened by noises and found the door to her attached garage open. Yeah, that would be kind of scary. And hey, I'd probably have the same response too. She grabbed her handgun, a .45-6 RP-220, and followed her pit bull to her home office where they found Cudlas hiding in a closet. Yeah, that was probably a good idea to hide, although I'm not sure that would protect him very well. He tried to get out of the situation by saying Mrs. Haley knew him. She responded, "I said I don't know you. Shut up and quit talking to me." Man, this is a woman after my own heart. She noted to the media that she wanted to control the situation. That's a good thing to do. Cudlas had been in the process of stacking stolen clothes, gift cards, and jewelry before he was found, and he was charged with burglary.
Wow. Now, this is, my understanding is, it's just 4 blocks from UNO, University of Nebraska Omaha campus. And authorities want to keep students and staff at risk in a gun-free zone. And one other comment here. I like that she had her pet dog help her in this. She was armed, but she had her dog there as well. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I bet the sound of claws on a floor made this guy go, whoops, wrong house.
Yeah, no kidding.
I've seen a picture of the dog. He was substantially sized.
Now we don't know specific. We have 2 new family members, and we haven't mentioned them on the show recently. But our 2 new dogs. One of them, we're told, was what was it, Susan? It's an American Staffordshire Terrier. Is what we were told it was. This thing, I swear, it may not be pit bull, but he really looks like him. And boy, I would say if somebody were to, and his name is, even though he's 104 pounds, his name is Little Dude. That was his name before we got him. We just have taken to calling him Dude.
Actually, American Staffordshire Terrier is the fancy name for a pit bull. So.
Okay, yeah, because this thing, I swear it. When he growls, it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and it takes a lot to get me worried. But I would be seriously concerned if Dude were to growl at me.
I mean, he sees some intruder in your house at night, Paul. He goes, "Oh boy, a Chewy toy." With
Pretty
sneakers.
close. And I don't think his eyesight is the greatest, because he will anybody that knocks on the door, he alerts, and he will. We're training him. We're working with him, and he will initially calm down, but he doesn't totally calm down until he's able to sniff their hand, and then if he's met them before and we say they're okay, then he's cool with it. So. All right, well, let's see here.
In the next case,
Yeah.
Joseph Seahack woke unexpectedly at 4:30 in the morning to use the bathroom. That's when he heard noises in his Westwood Terrace home in St. Police said Seahack armed himself and walked into his living room. That's where he found Brian Remley, age 25, going through Seahack's belongings. Seahack said he was armed because his home had been broken into only 1 week earlier. The intruder started running toward the homeowner, who fired 2 shots, but missed. The homeowner ran to get a backup gun and came back to find Remley in the kitchen, unable to get out. He held him there until police responded to the 911 call placed by Mrs. Seahack. While waiting, Remley told the homeowner he'd come back and mow his yard if he'd just let him go. Remley was charged with armed residential burglary and a probation violation. Mr. and Mrs. Seahack said they had a plan to be armed whenever they get up in the middle of the night.
Wow. Couple things about
the
this
thief
one.
was armed with a knife.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, not cool, but I just things that hit me as you were reading this. Fired 2 shots but missed, and then ran to get a backup gun. Was it a double-barreled shotgun?
Was it a Derringer? I have no idea.
Oh, good point. Or Susan said maybe the gun jammed. Yeah, that could be as well.
I read the story, and I think it actually had jammed on him, and that's why he had to go get a second gun.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Something to think about, you know.
But
he didn't get his
yard mode, though.
No, he didn't get the yard mode, but the good thing here is he had a backup gun and was able to get it into play.
Yep.
So, very cool. Very cool. And I'm wondering if you couldn't have bargained for more than a lawn mowing. I mean, come on. All right. We do have links to each of our news and defensive gun use articles at PoliteSocietyPodcast.com if you'd like to look them up or maybe share them with a friend. We're going to go ahead and step aside. When we come back, we got emails to talk about. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back right after this. And Susan says Humane Society uses the technical name because pit bulls are too hard to adopt otherwise. And that is true. Now, each of these emails I put in there are, I put basically the emails were just kind of links and not a lot else. So I kind of put write-ups. In one case, I think the second one, yeah, I just put the entire article up. So.
All right.
Who hasn't brought it? Rachel, have you brought us in yet? Yeah, you brought us in on your interview. Okay.
Yes.
So everybody's brought us in at least once.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. John, you want to...
Well, before we do, John, do you want me to ask about your blog?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we've already covered stuff. The JPFO working with SAF, no.
You know what? Can we please? Because I'm going to specifically ask you about, and I want to bring in one thing we haven't talked about in the news segment, but it does relate to blogging, so I'd like to talk about is Tamara Keel.
Okay, go ahead.
We talked about it Wednesday, but we can talk about it again.
Yes, well, I would like to. I would like to, if we could.
Okay, I'll leave it in there, and you jump in, Paul. Okay.
All right.
I'll ask John, and you say, "Hey, I read John's post about Tamara." La da 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 da. Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, go ahead and bring us in whenever you're ready.
Okay, in 5. Hi, and welcome to the email segment of the Polite Society podcast. Ken from Arizona sent us this email. He said, I thought this story might interest you. It encompasses registration, bans, storage, and government craziness. Ken S. And it was a story from the Daily Telegraph of Australia about the theft of registered firearms in New South Wales. It seems that criminals are still finding a way to become armed. Color me shocked.
Yeah, and I remember a story. Oh, I bet this has been 6 months ago or so or more. But I remember a story that they were manufacturing full autos. Criminals were building full autos down there. A very, very fast rate of fire, full autos. Because, if you got to build your gun, you might as well build it full auto.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But I'm just, guys, I think Ken S. has our number.
Yeah.
Registration, bans, storage, government craziness.
Oh,
He
yeah.
knows
all the
us.
way.
Right.
That's it.
Right place, good shot, on target.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next, Chris emailed a link to a story, and he said when he sent the link, he said, "This is why he carries a gun." It's off Mad World News, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it. A white Missouri couple was brutally attacked outside a Springfield nightclub by a mob of young black men. Now police are asking for the public's help identifying the attackers. According to Ozarks First, the incident happened on August 22nd outside of the Outland Ballroom. The victim sustained serious injuries while being assaulted by multiple black males. Meredith Cole said she was outside the club where her boyfriend, Alex, is a DJ when she was approached by the group who attempted to sexually assault her. She said Cole said when she went back inside to tell her boyfriend what happened, and when they went back out to identify her assailants, they were viciously attacked by the group. KY3 reports both the victims had to seek treatment at the hospital for their injuries, which include a fractured ankle for Cole. The story does include video of the attack. You can see the video through the link in our show notes. I want a couple things here. It's extremely unfortunate that race has come into effect, but let's go ahead and mention this. This is a group of blacks attacking a couple, both of which are white. If this would have been the opposite, should this have been a group of whites that attacked a black couple, this would have blown up in the media. Huge. And yet, because it's a group of blacks attacking whites, I honestly think myself that nobody wants to touch it because they don't want to be considered racist. Now, I'm going to say this. My stepdaughter, Susan's daughter, is 50% African American. I consider Angela my daughter. I'm the only dad she's ever known. And I find it racist. They're not commenting on this. They're not reporting on it. So, just my 2 cents. Anybody else want to have a go at that one?
I'd agree with you. They don't want to be called names. That's why they're hiding.
Yeah. So, and then one thing before we get Rob, I know we're gonna talk to you about your blog, but before we do that, John, I want to talk about your blog. I think it was mentioned on the Wednesday show. Wednesday show, as we record this Saturday night, isn't out yet. It should go in. It should go out tomorrow morning. But you had a post about Tamara Keel that I really want to talk about a little bit. She is, how do I put this? She's somebody I very much respect as a blogger. She's man, talk about snark. You know,
she is the mistress of snark.
But she really knows her stuff, and she's been the victim of a cyber stalker. And I want to, if you don't have to do much investigating, but you do have to do a little bit of investigating. This person's name is out there. The identity of the stalker is out there. But I want to give you kudos for not outing this person.
And you can find out the person's name in my comments. I didn't put them there. I didn't delete it. And the day after she put her blog into hiatus She has pulled up her archives again, thank God, because there was so much good information about firearms and training there. It would have been a crime to have lost it.
Yeah.
But the Cyber Stalker has gone on to the adventures of Roberta X, who happens to be Tam's roommate, and there's long diatribe saying, "Oh, you've misunderstood me," and he calls us, "It was all made up," and "How could you even think that I would do this?" And he was not even aware of all the talk about this, or it's all misleading and out of context. The man is insane.
Wow.
Now, I don't say that as a mental health professional, but the man is insane.
I follow her on Facebook, and I'm just wondering, and I don't read her blog as much as I should, but this is not a new thing.
No, it sounds like it's been going on for a long while.
Yeah, I know there are cyber stalking laws out there. Has this guy? I mean, and anybody can jump in here. Anybody that knows, has this guy stepped over the line, and is this something he can be arrested for? And if not, why not?
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, and the reason, being that he's from Florida, and Florida has, from what I've read, fairly strong cyber stalking laws. He may be getting visits. I mean, I don't know for sure, and she may decide not to go further, but she may. And what makes it even? This guy himself says, I have spent nearly 40 years in relatively high-risk businesses as an owner-operator of gun stores, pawn shops, and a coin and jewelry dealer. And I'm like, oh, great.
So, okay, so?
Yeah. Maybe he could actually be charged under state law. I don't know. Given that Tam is in Indiana and this guy's in Florida, you have interstate issues involved, which could make it a federal offense. I don't know federal law regarding this, and whether or not a prosecutor would say, well, there's not enough to do.
Well, let's just say this. From what I've been able to, I don't personally know her. I have never met the woman. I have nothing against her. I like a lot of what she writes, but I also think anybody you gotta be, how do you put this? You gotta be a few bricks short of full load to stalk somebody that's that talented with a firearm.
Yeah.
So, I certainly, I don't know if she listens or not. I kind of hope she does, but if you do listen, Tamara, we're on your side. We certainly hope. I understand why you shut the blog down, at least as far as comments, and you're not going to be posting anything new. I understand it. I wish you didn't have to. I know she does some professional writing. I certainly hope she does more of that and gets the for pay writing will benefit where we probably won't benefit for a while from the private blog, and I think that's too bad. But
yeah. I mean, John, you've had people where you've just deleted their comments and blocked them on your blog, I'm sure.
The problem with Blogspot is you cannot block people. You can delete their comments, but I don't think you can block them.
The way I have my permissions set up, once I've enabled somebody, they can post, but I can block and trash them, and then they don't.
Oh, like when I get spammers, I just delete their comments.
Right.
Like, they would say, "Oh, it's a great post," and then they'll have a link to some law firm in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a Hong Kong or Singapore law firm. I'm like, okay, forget this. You're gone.
Yeah, and then with the Polite Society podcast, I've got software that helps me do that with our. We get no kidding. If I were to disable this software, we'd get about 20 comments a day. We get maybe one comment a month. That's real.
I mean, I don't get a lot of comments, period, but there are blogs that do, and TAM was one that you could have 30, 40, 50, 100 comments on a topic.
Yeah. Well, that's I wish we had. You know what? Though in the Facebook site, we get a lot of comments about things, and we get email. I'm not saying we don't get feedback, but our primary feedback is not comments on the website. It does happen from time to time, but most of it's I have our spam filter set fairly high, and I just kind of let it do its thing, because when I do go in there to check, most of what we get as feedback on the website as comments is, buy your Gucci bags here. Cool site, like you're saying, cool site, buy Gucci bags here, or get a real Rolex watch for $30. Yeah, right. So anyway, enough on that. Rob, I know you got a post you want to talk about in your blog, right?
Right. I have a post where I contrasted the fate of citizens in states that support the right of self-defense, and I compared them to poor citizens in states that deny that right. It's easy to write. Heck, we talk about it twice a week on our podcast. It's on my Slow Facts blog. It's on Clash Daily and up at AmmoLand.
If one more thing I want you to brag on, I think it's in the midweek show, but I'm not quite sure, but I want to make sure if it isn't, it gets bragged on. You got picked up by NRA News.
Yeah, I did. That was the post where I described my May issue sheriff. And that went up at AmmoLand, and then they said, "Oh, we have that problem all over the country. Here." Away they go.
Awesome. All right. Well, that does then wrap up another episode of the Polite Society podcast. Until next time, everybody.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
This show, copyright 2014 by Paul Lathrop and Polite Society Podcast.
Good show, everybody.
Yeah, good stuff.
Hey, Paul,
if I wouldn't have...
do you have to put show notes up? No, I can put the show notes up for this show anytime before Wednesday, right?
Right.
Okay. Because I just tried to enter the site and it asked me for my password that I keep on a special Jazz drive that I don't have with me right now.
Okay. Okay. Now that's fine. I would really appreciate, because I've got the show ready to fly, if you could put show notes up for the Wednesday show.
Oh, they're already up.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah.
Then as soon as I get home tonight, I'll release it. So that's all I was waiting on.
No, it's this show that I can't. I was going to post it and I can't yet. I'll get it Monday night.
When you get it, you get it. It'll be. And I'm taking Monday off to get my truck really kidding fixed.
Okay.
I'm not leaving until it's really no kidding fixed, which means if it's not. I'll join you Wednesday, but I hope not. But it's possible. Two things. I got 2 comments from Greg. By the way, rollover was a gal driving a 4x4. She had been there for 20 to 30 minutes in sub-zero temps.
Ooh.
Kept in her truck with the heater going full blast until the trooper showed up. Good for you. Yeah, I've done that. I've done that once before, but it was a guy. And I don't remember what he was talking, but I don't see. He just says high point question. I don't know what that was in reference to. It was that came through at 8:22 p.m. So that's been several minutes ago. All right. So I think that's all of our comments. I didn't see anything come through on Q&A. Nope, but we never mentioned it. So thank you, everybody, for watching. That is still watching, and we've got some. But I want to thank everybody that is watching and remind everybody that ABN Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and Firearms Safety Institute all make it possible for us to do this. Finances for me, I couldn't go out of pocket for this show anymore. If we didn't have sponsors, you wouldn't be getting the show. So I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors, and please support them if you can. They keep you getting this show for free. So I'm going to go ahead and take us off live here, and let's see how to. Oops, I don't want to do that anymore. How do I stop the broadcast now? Because it won't let me. I suppose I could just close the window, but I wanted to talk to everybody off air for a second. How do I? Because it said when Frank had that take a picture app, nobody actually did it. But oh, there we go. Now here's stop broadcast.